Hey everyone, Kyle once again, and welcome back to the next movie review. And well, long time ago I reviewed this film already, so it's a re-review. But so now year 2026 makes it this year marks the 40th anniversary of films of 1986. 40 years now, you know. But I wanted to talk about this film again because I know that it's regarded. I know it's regarded about it's one of the as one of the worst movies ever made, and there is quite a there is quite a few people that do like this film, including myself, and I review this film why it's in my title of my last review. I defend this film. And people could probably still today, yes, people could probably still say that I'm an idiot or I'm just dumb for liking this film because it's one of the worst movies ever made. But you know what? This film, it is one of Marvel's early movies. One of the first Marvel films, one of the earliest. It's not one of the first. It's one of the earliest Marvel films to be made. But I enjoy the character. I grew up. I enjoy the character. I have the comic books. I like this character, and that was when I saw the movie. You know, years later, growing up. And to me, it was never a bad movie. It was to me. But after looking up, of course, years later on the internet, we're looking up. Well, really, it's one of the worst movies ever made. Really, especially in today's age. To me, this film is a lot better than a lot of the comedies of today. And fortunately, it's better than some of the recent superhero movies, in my opinion. Which I know that will probably give me a lot of flack for saying that. But especially with everything's like everything's political nowadays. To me, this or far PC, or whatever. To me, to me, given the circumstances how it was back then, to me, I've seen a lot of dumb things, and far less ridiculous than the stuff this film had. It's far less than all the stupid shit I see in films of today. So just re-reviewing it for because it was released on August 6th. So by this August 6th, August 1st, it'll be 40 years since this film came out, and that is of the early Marvel film Howard the Duck. Yep. I still like this film, and I'll still defend this film. I know. And probably people probably left me comments in my review what I did years ago, but I still enjoy this film. I'm very one of the few people that like this film. I know there's a guy on here called OCP Communications. He's a fan of this film. So I'm not the only one. And also when I read when I see clips of this online and I look at the comments, there are some people who do like this film, say, "Oh, this is a childhood film for me," or "This is a good film for me growing up," stuff like that, So I'm not the only one who likes this film. And I say this film was far less ridiculous than some of the stupid shit in films, not just in superhero movies, but then like what in comedies nowadays or just other films in general. To me, it's far less ridiculous, far less stupid than the stupid shit I've seen in the past couple of years. Because I've seen a whole lot of bad movies that come out in the last couple of years. To me, this easily beats out any of them. Whether it's a superhero film in general, or just a comedy film, or just any film in general, because a lot of films that I've seen the last couple of years is just whether it's a horror or any genre that just pissed me off. This is far less ridiculous than any of those stupid shit films I've seen of the past couple years. But anyway, Howard the Duck was because I enjoyed reading the comic books, right? When he first appeared in um what was it? It's not wasn't Tales of Suspense. It was an issue of the Man Thing, right? It was one of the Man Thing comics when he first appeared, and then before he landed his solo series. Because in the solo series, even Kiss, the rock band Kiss, made an appearance in it. But I enjoyed the comic books, and so and of course the Howard the Duck that cameos in the MCU films, and especially in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, voiced by Seth Green. Which, honestly, I think Seth Green was to me. I think Seth Green was a bit off, as Howard the Duck. It doesn't seem to fit the Howard the Duck voice. I think it would have been nostalgic if they got Chip Zahn, who voiced it in this movie, to voice him in the MCU. But I guess they don't want anything associated with this film. Otherwise, oh, that voice. Oh, he voiced the Howard the Duck in this film. This is a horrible movie. Maybe that's why I have no idea. But anyway, the 1986 film, 40 years later, the 40th anniversary, and I still enjoy the film. I still have a lot of to me, this had plenty of things going for the film. Okay, but it's and especially this is a film that was produced by George Lucas, the director of the first Star Wars. Well, Star Wars Episode 4, New Hope, and then the prequel movies, right? And of course, worked with Spielberg on the Indiana Jones films as well. But yeah, George Lucas, of course, he disowns this film. Of course, he disowns this film. He disowns the film, and including the director and the producer. Director Willard Huyck and producer Gloria Katz. Because this will be the last film that the theoretical film that Willard Huyck directed, because due to the very critical negative reception this film got, I think because the poor this film did not do that well. I think Gloria Katz was also married to Willard Huyck. That they moved away, I think, to Hawaii. I think after this film bombed, so to get away from it. But it's a shame, because I think there's many good points why I liked about the film. Yes, I'll get to those, but thinking of an early Marvel film that George Lucas helped produce, executive producer, because they thought this would be because hey, George Lucas, a big name during the time because of Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Probably thought this would be a big hit because of if you put George Lucas's name during that time, you think it would have been a big hit, But but it didn't do well, because like a budget of 37 million in the U.S., it made 16 million worldwide. About 30 some million, like 36 or million worldwide, or around there though. So it didn't do well, and of course, as the critical reception from critics was not nice either. It has a 4.9 IMDb still. It has a 13% Rotten Tomatoes. It got pretty much all the Razzies. And I think it tied for Worst Picture, along with Under the Cherry Moon, with starring Prince. I'm sorry. I don't think should have tied for this, in my opinion, though. But for worst supporting actor, worst picture, worst director, probably worst screen combo, probably we're all the categories. Probably I forget though, but I know for a fact worst picture. Worst director, worst supporting actor. So, but I gotta understand where people are coming from though. But to me, but in my opinion, I enjoy the film. But but I just probably it's me. I just see things differently, you know. So and for the cast, you stars Lea Thompson from the time when she just did the first Back to the Future, which I like Lea Thompson as well as an actress. When she first starred in Jaws 3, and then later on, all the time, All the Right Moves with Tom Cruise during the time of the 80s, Back to the Future, and then of course whatever I saw where she was in Dennis the Menace. She's been in quite a other movies during the 90s, and she didn't well in the early 2000s and the later 2010s. Not much though, but she was a rising star during the 80s and then the 90s. But even Lea Thompson, she's complex about this film. I mean, she respects the fact there are people who are fans of this film like later in the years because this film has developed a cult of following over the years. So she does respect the fact that there were fans of this film afterwards. I mean, she probably said that the production of this film was horrible, it was a nightmare, you know. But I think she did like, you know, during the whole shoot of the acting process though. But you know what? And if she through talks that she later on like she wanted to direct like a reboot of this movie, but her probably get the attention to give the attention more deserves, you know. So I mean, if she wanted to do like a reboot of this film, so I guess she still thinks about this film. If she wanted to do that though, and then other cast members, you got a young Tim Robbins, who was 25 at the time, and Tim Robbins many movies. Of course, when he won Academy Award winner as well. Of course, films I really do enjoy him from. One of my favorites of his is Jacob's Ladder from 1990. I love Jacob's Ladder. It's one of the best psychological thriller horror films I've watched. You know, I love Jacob's Ladder from 1990. And then of course, the Shawshank Redemption with him and Morgan Freeman. Really enjoy the Shawshank Redemption. Um, you could probably say at least he wanted to go on to do better films after this, though. People probably would say. Um, of course, this is small when he was in War of the Worlds and Mystic River, Mission to Mars, many movies, you know. So, and I think both Lea Thompson and Tim Robbins, I think they were good, you know, especially like at the time Lea Thompson looked, well, I would say, pretty hot in this film, you know. Probably say it was probably like the hottest she looked, you know, probably during the time of her career, you know, being this rock star in this band called Cherry Bomb. And at least Lea Thompson, you know, she did all the singing herself and her playing the guitar. I think she still has that guitar that she has right here in the film. I think she still has it, you know. Because I was looking on trivia, as I said, that she still has this guitar that she still has right here. At least that's cool, you know. And so, but yeah, this is definitely her. Probably the best that she looked for me, you know. And yeah, I think she still did pretty good in this film, to me though, and also Tim Robbins as well. At least, I mean, even Tim Robbins, he was at least he said he enjoyed the acting process though, but I think it was complex of the film, like Lea Thompson was about the production of the making of this movie. And then of course you got Jeffrey Jones. I said this about him a lot of times about Jeffrey Jones, how he's a piece of in real life he's a piece of garbage, you know. He's a freaking pedo, you know. I've said about him a lot of times, how he's a freaking pedo, and he anyone who's like that in real life, freaking pedos are piece of freaking garbage, okay? Piece of shitty human beings. But at the same time, I said before about Jeffrey. I like Jeffrey Jones as an actor, and this is the same year. Like this film was released like a month or a couple months before when he right after he did Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He was no, about Jeffrey Jones. He's probably known for playing the principal in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Principal Rooney. So yeah, he did. So this film was released like directly after he did Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But at least Jeffrey Jones, compared to Lea Thompson and Tim Robbins, at least Jeffrey Jones, he said he had fun making the film. He enjoyed his role as Doctor Jennings, and while at the same time he does the voice of the Dark Overlord, when he's possessed, and then the Dark Overlord has his voice, and so different voice. So at least Jeffrey Jones, at least he said he had fun making the film. He had fun with it. So at least there's a positive of the three main actors. At least Jeffrey Jones, he said he had fun. He had fun with the film. So at least there's a positive for from the actors. So, but I liked all three of these actors in this film. And so and what Jeffrey Jones said, I could tell I could see he did have fun making acting, especially acting like a bit over the top when he's the Dark Overlord. I am now one of the Dark Overlords of the universe. So yeah, the whole production, especially there was a they were like especially the people wearing the suit of the Howard the Duck suit. Okay, I guess at the time they wanted to get some kid actors, but I guess it would be too hot in the suit. The pretty much the main one who wore the suit was Ed Gale, which I said before in memoriam because Ed Gale passed away last year. He was for the most part he was the one wearing the suit, which he also played Chucky in the first Child's Play film. Whenever wasn't just the doll, they had a mini person in his suit wearing the Chucky suit, so. And Ed Gale, which he said that he received more fan mail as Howard the Duck more than Chucky. So I found that pretty funny. Yeah, but Ed Gale, he passed away last year, sadly though, so. But so there was a lot of people, plenty of people who wore the suit though, but Ed Gale was pretty much the main one though. And Chip Zahn, who voiced Howard the Duck, I think he did a good job voicing Howard the Duck. I think he did. I think he had the right. I think he had the right voice of Howard. I just think that I think Seth Green was he was just off sounding Howard when I first heard about it at the end of the first Guardians, and then his little voice in the second film with his cameo. It just sounded off-putting. I think he only said like one or two sentences in both the first and at the end of the first Guardians and his like 3-second cameo. I mean, it's not like I think Chip Zahn was that busy. I think he only combined told he only said like only a few words. I think that would not have made a difference though, but I guess they don't want anyone to feel he's how voice in the movie. No, but oh well. But I think he did a good job he did a good job as voicing Howard. So he was definitely a positive for me though. So. And I think that a lot of the production I liked, had some good, especially first of all the suit. Yeah, people complained about the suit, not making an animated suit. To me, I would rather take a full practical suit than having a CGI suit, And especially if it was a CGI suit and if it was CGI in the 80s, especially from during that time, I think it would have looked off now. But I'd rather take a practical suit any day because it's real. You can't get more real than it's physically there than just having some of this if an actor is standing there talking like at nothing there, you know. I always mostly prefer realism over, you know, the CGI, you know. So I think for overall, I think the suit was good though. To me, I prefer a real suit, and which a lot of people don't like though. A lot of people did not like the suit. I mean, hell, people did not like the suits of the gorillas in Congo. You know, the gorilla suits made by Stan Winston. A lot of people complained about the suits in those. I'm like, really? I to me they look pretty they look pretty damn good in Congo. I rather take like I said I said the same thing in Congo. I'd rather have practical suits rather than CGI having C because nowadays if it involves animals nowadays you see in films it would be completely CGI, whether it's the dogs or cats or anything, you know, because it's humane, you know. Yeah, but yeah, Homeward Bound, the 1993 film that I grew up watching, you know, the Disney film. Yeah, using real animals, including a mountain lion, bears, porcupines, dogs, and the cat, you know. Or 101. Yeah, in 101 Dalmatians, there were some CG enhancements in certain scenes, but a lot of the times it was pretty much 99% of the times, I would say, using real dogs and other the farm animals. But nowadays, they just CGI everything, you know, so I just rather take realism than CGI animals. So, but enough, you know. But this one thing I enjoy this. I to me I like the suit, you know. So I did the production behind it, yeah, from visual effects, from industrial light and magic, you know. Include well, you can tell the CGI probably the CGI usage is probably from you see from the Dark Overlord's powers, you know, when he shoots like the lasers and stuff. That's okay. People complain about the effects of when the Dark Overlord the possessed Jeffrey Jones using his powers, using, you know, the whether it's doing this or even the monster, you know, using the CGI powers, you know. Maybe people can understand though, but I'll get to more on that though. So yeah, the production was pretty much hellish, probably, but yeah, I can understand that though. But I think overall the effects I thought were pretty good in this movie. And one of the positive, I enjoy the score from John Barry. I know John Barry's done some films, a lot of movies though, including one I remember from Mercury Rising with Bruce Willis and Alec Baldwin. I really enjoy the music in this film from John Barry, and the songs too by Thomas Dolby. I like the song. I like the songs in this film, and it's, a lot of times it's Lea Thompson who's singing the songs. Then they wanted the dubber voice, which that would have looked awful. You know, you would have told that that was not her voice. I think Lea Thompson did a good job singing wise, and her playing the guitar. I enjoy her singing. I think she did a good job in this with singing wise. I think she had a good voice, you know, and I enjoy the songs. Like in the opening of this film, Hunger City. I can make it here in Hungers. Even if you don't like the film, at least it has a good soundtrack. Even if you don't like the film, at least this film has a good soundtrack to it. And that's one thing I like. I like the score by enjoy the score by John Barry, and I like the soundtrack, the songs. And then probably people don't like the song Howard the Duck playing at the end of the movie though, but I enjoy the songs. So that's another thing. I enjoy the soundtrack. So because a lot of it is sung by actually by Lea Thompson. So the songs by Thomas Dolby, the score by John Barry. I enjoy the music and the soundtrack. But like I said, if even people don't like this film, at least the film has a good soundtrack to it. But yeah, 24 minutes, almost 25 minutes in, still haven't talked about the plot. Well, I said I reviewed this so a long time ago, so, but you can check out my older review of it though. But anyway, just okay. Howard the Duck on his planet Duck World, right? It's basically it's similar basically to Earth, except the beings are ducks. We see him as the credits are going. Him in his apartment, coming home from work, and there is even posters, parodied posters, right? Instead of flash dance, it's called splash dance. Or, of course, this is a George Lucas produced film. There's a parody poster of Raiders of the Lost Ark called Breeders of the Lost Ark. That I thought was kind of funny, how the poster of Indiana Jones, except it's a duck as a duck. So I thought that was kind of a funny parody poster, because hey, it was George Lucas production, right? Lucas Films, right? And so, and we see Howard, him smoking his cigars like he did in the comics, smoking his cigars. He did kind of have the blue suit to it, which that was one thing I preferred in when I saw him in the MCU. He had the orange suit, which he did wear. He did wear an orange suit though, but I just preferred him wearing the blue suit, including the small little hat he wore as well. But he's watching TV, which he see all the commercials of duck people, right? And he's looking at his Playboy magazine called Play Duck. And that's one thing you see where, because it seems like it's an earthquake, but he ends up getting dragged dragged across the building, through the building, and dragged into space. But we see as he's being dragged through each rooms of the building. Yes, people see there's a female duck in the bath. You see duck tits, okay? Yes, I'm sure a lot of people say, "Oh my god, duck tits." Okay. Oh my god. To me, even though it lasts about 5 seconds, right? To me, it's like talking about the whole PC stuff. To me, it's a far less ridiculous idea or PC idea than all the stupid political bullshit we see they put in films of today. All right. Especially see it in the superhero movies. This seeing duck tits for like 5 seconds. It's a far less stupid idea than all the stupid bullshit I've seen in the superhero movies nowadays. Okay, if people could think otherwise, though, but to me, it's a far less ridiculous idea nowadays. Maybe back then though, but if you watch all the all the superhero movies especially the superhero movies of today, and all the political wokeness they put in it, it's almost kind of makes this stupid idea almost pretty much irrelevant. I just don't get the big. I just don't never get the big deal. Oh, it lasts about 5 seconds. So, but I just look at the stupid, not just in superhero movies, but just stupid PC wokeness bullshit they put in films nowadays. Seeing duck tits for like 5 seconds, far less ridiculous than the stupid shit I've seen in films. Okay. But anyway, so he basically gets pulled through space. We see that we hear this narrator about Howard the Duck with a title, Howard the Duck, and we see the start of the score from John Barry, dun dun da da da, dun dun da da dun, and then he lands on Earth in Cleveland, Ohio. And that's where you get the first song, "Hunger City," sung by Lea Thompson. I enjoy that, and I really do enjoy that song. I can make it here in Hunger City. Nothing's gonna stop me. I know I'll survive. That's a good song though. So we see him running through the streets because now he's on Earth, seeing these different type of beings he's never seen before. So he's like running, including there's this female biker gang called Satan's Sluts, and he hides in a barrel. Then afterwards, after her gig, Lea Thompson as Beverly, the character from the comics Beverly, gets harassed by these two goons, and so Howard tries to help with his quack fu. That's another reference in the comic books, quack fu. because they even in one of the comics, Howard does a reference of Shang-Chi, the master of kung fu. Here it's quack fu. So introduce each other to ask him where he's at, what planet he's on. So follows her, takes her to her place, and he tells a little bit about himself, like how he used to go to med school and different jobs, So, and even there's a bit of humor. Is like, oh, maybe you're here, maybe you're here because of some destiny awaits you, Maybe that's why you're here. So as he falls asleep, Lea Thompson goes through his wallet, like our money, like the $1 bill with George Washington's face switched to a duck face. And of course he finds a condom in his wallet, and he's like, Howard. That's always they always say that people sometimes, for guys, sometimes I never get the whole thing keeping a condom in your wallet. I never got the whole point of it. But Lea Thompson tries to find help. He takes Howard to see Phil, played by Tim Robbins, a young 25-year-old Tim Robbins at the time, and he tries to explain like how he got here, and so which Howard thinks that's all that is pretty much all baloney. I don't need you. I can be fine on my own. Tries to get this job at this place, like this bath place. Seeing these couple, he's like, "Whoa, must be mating season." But he quits the job, and so he goes to that place where Beverly's playing, and seeing that the band's manager Ginger keeping the money that they owe that he owes them, to pay them. And so, including one of the three guys at the bar that's with the manager Ginger. The guy, I forget the guy's name though, but I see him later in the Super Mario Brothers movie. He was one of those two guys, those two idiots, the cousins of Koopa, right? He was the guy in the Super Mario Brothers. He had the goatee, almost a shave style head, He was one of those two brothers in the Super Mario Brothers movie. Forget the character's name though, but I recognize that guy though. So okay, yeah, him who he would later star in the Super Mario Brothers movie. I think he was also, I remember, he will also star in Frankenfish. He was like the hippie, because I remember, yeah, because he was like the hippie with the long dreads and the beard, and he gets his head bitten off by the fish. So yeah, okay, so one of the guys at the bar, it's him from the Super Mario Brothers movie, okay. And so Howard demands Ginger to give him the money, or else beats up the guys basically. And so visits them in their dressing room. Phil is there, trying to explain more how he got up here. So, but he tells him, hey, he's gonna bring evidence, that proof that he was here. So, and then afterwards, back at her place, him playing like the electric piano, because he had a band in high school. And of course, probably the people think this is probably also ridiculous, because him in bed with Beverly, a human and an anthropomorphic animal, trying to, do it, I'm sure that's why a lot of people, oh my god, Like I said, it's far less ridiculous than the stupid stuff I've seen in films nowadays, I just find that hilarious though. But Tim Robbins comes in with Jeffrey Jones and another associate, Carter, and it's like, this defies like the very laws of nature. No, it isn't. This is not what it looks like. We're just very good friends. And so Jeffrey Jones as Dr. Jennings explains how he got here. He at this science lab, this huge machine called the laser spectroscope. They were first time testing it, and then there was a it wasn't not an accident, but they lost control of it, and somehow it ended up targeting his planet and ended up dragging him through space back to here on Earth, to back to Earth. So, and they saw there was a single feather that fell in that lab. So that's why Tim Robbins took a feather from him and it matched. So Howard said, "Hey, let's go back to the lab and basically I'll get back on that laser spectroscope and hit the reverse lever and send me back home, basically." So they head back there, but there was another explosion. And okay, some of the production stuff, this whole production of this big laser spectroscope, it looks, at least I can see that at the time, a budget like that is definitely on the screen. And like I said, more of the good score from John Barry, And so there was another explosion, but Jennings, he just disappeared. And then the cops show up, and the lieutenant who's in charge is actually Paul Guilfoyle, who later plays Brass in the CSI Las Vegas series. And of course, I've seen him in other films as well. Of course, I remember mostly he was the president's chief of staff in Air Force One. But he was afterwards. I remember he was also started to play Brass from the CSI TV show. But a young Paul Guilfoyle, So, and it's like, where is this thing at, And so, he's like laughing. He's like, he's laughing because he sees it's at first he thinks it's a suit. Come here and get this duck suit off. And the cops try taking his clothes off, but it's not. There's no zipper or anything, so they think he's actually a real duck. And so Paul Guilfoyle is like, "Listen, Howard, I'm gonna go talk to those scientists. You are gonna play sitting duck in a jail cell, sir. What's the charge? Illegal alien." Get it? So okay, it was cool. It was cool to see him in this, And so, but they managed to escape from the cops, and then Jeffrey Jones shows up, And so they get a car, and Jeffrey Jones saying, "Oh, hey, how he saw something. We're all in danger," and feels like there's something inside of him. He's being possessed. So they get to this diner. That's when he's like, "I'm dead," and then that's when he gets taken over. He's like, "Yes, you are." So that's why I said that why Jeffrey Jones had fun with the role, because he's doing like the in this type of voice, being over the top like this, "I am not Jennings anymore. The transformation is now complete. I am now someone else." Yeah, so he explains that he's one of the dark overlords of the universe, and so he's like, "It lies beyond the planets. It is a region of demons." So that's because he was brought, and the Dark Overlord was brought down the same way Al Howard did. But this time, he during the explosion he entered Jennings' body. So, and then the waitress comes in and brings them their specials, and Howard freaks out because he sees fried eggs. He's like, "Am I into cannibalism or something? I'll give you a hint, doll. What's white, ovoid? It always reminds me of my birthday. The eggs! Get him out of here!" And then we see like the Jennings, the possessed Jennings, like start using his powers, and this is where like the CG from the visual effects from Industrial Light and Magic come in, like him shooting the stuff, like able to explode like bottles of mustard and ketchup, right? I mean, at least it was done practical, though, not CG, though, because you can see the bottles physically moving and exploding. But yeah, I probably can give leeway, because how else you could do that for the Dark Overlord's powers, right? So, but from the 80s, it looked like, it was fine, the CGI of the usage of the Dark Overlord's powers, right? And then these people start harassing Howard. And, oh, look at this thing here, and him get into a fight, and then they try the whole diner gets involved, tying him down, and Lea Thompson's like, he's my boyfriend, and everyone just looks at her like, and the one guy's like, that's disgusting. And so Jennings, for now I'll call him the Dark Overlord since he's possessing Jennings. The Dark Overlord, using more of his powers, and make this cleaver fly, making it controlling the cleaver. Done for real. People say it's on a string or whatever, but and just it cuts the rope that's tied Howard, and Howard's like, ooh, because it came that close to cutting off his, and a lot of it's done practical when the Dark Lord is making things explode, and you see like little sparks and explosions done for real. So I do appreciate the practicality of it, and so and then he makes a Howard, like, lifts Howard up in the air to give him the code key because he wants the code key that will activate the laser spectroscope so he can use it to bring down the other Dark Overlords. And so he makes Howard like fly up in the air, like doing twirls, and so then makes him slam down on a table. Then he goes and takes Beverly, and Jeffrey Jones. He's a tall guy, I forget how tall Jeffrey Jones. He's like about, what is he? He's like 6'4". He's probably like 6 feet, like 6'3" or so. And Tim Robbins is tall too. He's like about 6'5", I think he is. Yeah, sometimes I forget that Jeffrey Jones and Tim Robbins, they're tall. They're tall guys, So the Dark Overlord takes Beverly, drives off, and so then Howard gets Phil, who's been arrested, and that's where we get this whole chase scene on this plane of theirs. They wire this plane. They get this whole police chase, which I do like the chase. I do like the chase scene of him flying on this plane. The police following them. And that's when they get the good score from John Barry, And so, and you do get some good stunt work, like this one, like they throw this banner because it says duck hunting, right? And it throws against this cop car and drives off the pier and into the water. So you get some decent car stunts. And then they see that then there's these duck hunters, and goes like, "Death to the sky to all duck hunters." And one moment you do hear the what was it, the Willard Huyck scream, we should hear a lot, the Willard Huyck scream. Or did I say Willard Huyck? Not the director, but it's that scream. It's that scream you hear in a lot of movies, So, and then the Dark Overlord goes to this nuclear power plant, right, and goes into like this radiation room to get more power, and I do go with the slow transformation of Jeffrey Jones. I think it's pretty good good makeup effects as well. And so, and then on the way he gets these because he's driving this big rig, and so in traffic, right, for a smog inspection, using like like more, we get just more of the effects when he zaps this cop, and then destroys this whole line of vehicles in front of them as people are running away. Good practical explosions of all the cars exploding. Like I said, it has a lot of good physical explosions in this, so that I do appreciate. And then back with the whole Howard and Phil still on the plane. Another good car stunt where where the end of this car, one of the cop cars drives on this bank and flips over. You know, and Tim Robbins is like, "No, don't shoot! I'm an innocent hostage. The duck's a lunatic. He's a duck terrorist." Then So he said, Howard, pull it up, and then that's when they lift the plane up, and that's when the cop car drives, hits this bank and then flips over. So you do that was a pretty decent car stunt. I like that one. I don't know why. I see, of course, I've seen many car stunts in films, but I just don't know why it's how the way the car just flips over after hitting the bank like that. I don't know why, but as I said, there's a lot of this film going for it. Like some good stunt work, good explosions, real explosions, not just CGI explosions. So it has a lot of good practical stunt work. So I do get that's another positive I give it that. And so and then they crash in the water, and so afterwards, and then they get back to the lab, and so they have to find a way to stop him. And so there's this weapon that the defense developed but didn't finish because due to budget reasons. It's called the neutron disintegrator. And so Howard is driving this thing, and they have this big face off. That's the Dark Overlord. Like I said, good makeup effects. How he's slowly, like in the hands, and you see like a bit of a spine in the back. Some good practical makeup effects on Jeffrey Jones when he's transforming into this Dark Overlord. And then using all of his powers, and then Howard just boom to activate the disintegrator, causes this big explosion, and Jeffrey Jones, he's back the way he was, because of the explosion, the Dark Overlord has now been released, out of his body now. So he's back the way he was before. And so, and the Dark Overlord, I thought the look of the Dark Overlord, I thought it was a cool looking design of this monster, and also pretty good of stop motion animation as well. Stop motion animation, the kind like you see from Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, that type of stop motion animation, or Wallace and Gromit, right? That type of stop motion animation. So I thought the stop motion animation on the Dark Overlord, I do appreciate the practicality of it using. Of course, because they make it look like it's a giant creature though, but of course they make the room like a mini, like a mini set for the usage of the stop motion animation itself. So they kind of integrate that to make it look like it's a giant creature. So I thought the first one, I thought of the Dark Overlord. I liked the design look of it, cool looking monster, and it's done by usage of stop motion animation. I do appreciate that though. And Howard, and then he has in the use shoots one of its like those tentacles to activate the laser spectroscope, and grabs Howard, right, and it's pulling. It's like, going somewhere, Howard, and it uses it grabs like, and it grabs Howard, and then Jeffrey Jones gives Howard this thing to slice one of his tentacles off. um and then uses like its powers, like almost kind of like way almost like disintegrating Lea Thompson and Tim Robbins. Then he gets the neutron disintegrator to destroy the Dark Overlord, but there's more coming down, so he has no choice but destroy the laser spectroscope. By doing so, he'll never get back home. So he makes the sacrifice to saying goodbye to Duck World. So he used the disintegrator to destroy the spectroscope, as we see more Dark Overlords coming down, and he destroys it. They get sent back the way they came, and a good practical explosion of the whole laser spectroscope exploding. And so they find him in the wreckage, and then Howard plays a joke on them, saying, "I am not Howard." They pretend to be possessed as well, so he makes a joke of that. And then afterwards, like the band is now becomes like a big hit, and now they're on tour, and I do like the outfit that Lea Thompson wears right here for her band. And so, and then they sing the song, Howard the Duck, Howard the Duck, boom, and shot an arrow straight through my heart, Howard the Duck. And then he ends up getting on stage in front of everybody, and he plays his own little guitar as well. So and I and so and as the credit as the credits are going, as they're finishing the song, as the credits are going, and what was it? I find that funny. Like at the end of the credits, when when the song was finished, it said during the credits, ultra light sequence, Joe Johnston. Yeah, director Joe Johnston, who later going to direct Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, The Rocketeer, Jurassic Park 3, the first Captain America film. I'm like, I find that funny. Ultra light sequence, Joe Johnston. So even Joe Johnston back then, before he directed those films, he had a hand in production of the ultra light sequence in this film. I still find that funny. Really, director Joe Johnston before he directed Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Jurassic Park 3, Captain America, the first Avenger, The Rocketeer, The Page Master. So yeah, and so but I enjoy the song. But as I said, if you, even if you don't like the film, at least the film does have a good soundtrack. And I said and during the whole thing, like, at least Lea Thompson, she does sing all the songs herself, and her playing the guitar like that, and plus I think she did it back then. I think this is the hottest she looked, especially like the because going for like the 80s style rock hair as well. But I think she didn't like that. I think she said that she didn't like the hair. I think she said she rather wore a wig. I'm sorry, I like the way her hair was like that. The 80s style rock hairstyle, from the 80s, But I think Lea Thompson did good as in this film. Say with Tim Robbins, whether they like the film or not, though. At least Jeffrey Jones, like I said, in real life, he's a zero, a piece of garbage in real life, though. But I like him as an actor, so. But at least he had fun. He had fun making this film. At least one of the three actors, he had fun making the film. So I give him that as well. So, but as a human being, he's not, because no one. I don't like I said. I don't know how anyone who could defend people who does things like with young children. No one should defend pedophiles. Well, I know, because I do know, because Francis Ford Coppola defends his buck buddy, Victor Salva, who directed the Jeepers Creepers films. Morons. Yeah, that's gonna be a rough review when I review the Jeepers Creepers movies, because that freaking Victor Salva, that piece of shit. I just find it's just like, and Jeffrey Jones too is like, just no one does that. No one, anyone who's like who defend. Even Francis Ford Coppola, who I'm not that really big on, but even he's a piece of shit as well, because no one should defend pedophiles, nobody, okay. I don't know how you can defend someone who does like stuff with young children. I don't get that though. And James Marsden, I think I said before about James Marsden, who's played in Cyclops from the X-Men movies and the Sonic movies. I like him as an actor too, though. But just like, there was this one guy who was also a pedo. He defends him. He defends this guy. I'm like, James Marsden, you're an idiot. Okay. I just don't see how anyone could defend pedos. I just don't. I can just kind of not rationalize that. And like I said, Wesley Snipes got more jail time for tax evasion more times than these people did. It just boggles my mind. But anyway, but so whether you hate Jeffrey Jones because of that, but as an actor, at least he had fun making the film. I liked him in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I liked him in this film in Beetlejuice, and then uh also in Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow. So even his role in the Hunt for Red October. I like Jeffrey Jones as an actor, but listen, as a human being, he's a piece of shit. Okay. I said it time and time again about him, though, and all the other ones like Victor Salva and anyone else, though, who's a pedo. But regardless, though, I enjoy the film. I'm one of the very few people that defends this film. Like I said, my brother, he thinks I'm an idiot for saying so, for liking this film. But like I said before about my brother, we butt heads. Well, what films that I like, he calls me. He called me an idiot for not liking Wonder Woman, which a lot of people did give me shit for though. And he calls me an idiot for liking this film. And he even says like you're just crazy that, like I said, I'm one of the few people that did not mind the 2015 Fantastic Four film. I didn't love it. It's not great though. Okay, I told him before. I did not love the movie. It's not great. Okay, I just did not mind it. But yet he still gives me shit for not minding the 2015 Fantastic Four film. I know it's hated by everybody, but I'll have to review the film sometime later on. But I'm sure people are gonna give me shit for that too. Yeah, I know. But back with this though, he says that he thinks that I'm in it for liking this film because it's a horrible movie, like as does called by everybody. That's why for years it's been regarded as one of the worst movies ever made. But I'm just one of the very few people that likes the film. It's like there's, like I said, OCP Communications. He likes this film, and there are some people who said who like so I read comments. It's like, oh, this I like this, and this was a childhood film for me. So I'm not the only one who also likes this film or defends this film. Because it has developed a cult following over the years, though. So, but I think the cast, I think Lea Thompson, Jeffrey Jones, and Tim Robbins, they were good as in this film. I enjoy the score by John Barry, and I enjoy the soundtrack, the songs as well. So I think Lea Thompson, listen, I think she was good as Beverly. To me, I think it's pretty much. I think it's one of my favorite roles of pretty much my favorite role of Lea Thompson, and it's one of the few times I see her in the lead. And I think she was pretty good looking back then. Hot, I could say, beautiful looking back then. So, but at least she does respect though that there were people who fans this film afterwards when this film came out. But as I said, Tim Robbins as well. Those are the production, whether it's for whether from the stunt work, from the car chases or the car stunts or the practical explosions, which I do appreciate. I enjoy, like I said, the practical of the Dark Overlord itself. I like the design of the look of the creature, the usage of stop motion animation. I appreciate. And like I said, I rather take a real suit over CGI, But then again, like I said, people give when Congo came out, that got Razzies, and that film got a lot of shit, because people did not like the gorilla suits, and just like I really said from Stan Winston, I really take the real practical gorilla suits over CGI, But like I said, nowadays when it deals with animals, they CGI the animals completely. Because I know for there was that Harrison Ford film called The Wild, the dog though that was with him the whole time. There was a completely CGI dog, and it looked off-putting. Definitely was it was so obvious looking for the CGI dog. I mean, just like I just look back on films that use real animals, like I said, especially in the '90s. Like Homeward Bound, 101 Dalmatians, even 100 the sequel, or well, the ones they use real animals. Well, even when they use real animals, when they made the animals talk using the CGI their mouths move. What was oh, Cats and Dogs, right? Even when they use the CGI the mouths move though, at least they still use real dogs and cats. At least they still did that though. But the only thing they did was making their mouths CG moved. But at least in Cats and Dogs, 1 and 2, they used real dogs and cats still. But I just because like I said, I just rather take real over computer generated effects, because it's physically there and you can't get more real looking than that. That's just how I always prefer real over CGI because it's physically there and it makes it look more real because it's actually there. So, but yeah, from the practical stunt work, the explosions, the chase, the song, soundtrack, the acting. I mean, mostly Ed Gale, rest in peace to him. I think he did a good job for most time in the suit. Chip Zahn, who voiced. I definitely like Chip Zahn's voice as Howard the Duck. He did a good job. And I'll even give credit to even the people, not just Ed Gale, but the other people who were standing in the duck suit. But yeah, when it came out, it just got disowned by pretty much by everybody. Like I said, Willard Huyck, Glory Katz, they disowned their own film. Same with George Lucas. Even the Howard the Duck's creator, comic creator Steve Gerber, he disapproves of the movie. But I'm just one of the few people that likes it. That's why 40 years later for me, I still think to me, I think that's why I put it as very underrated to me. 40 years later. And like I said, I think it's to me it's better than some of the stupid shit like the wokeness and the PC stuff they put in films nowadays, especially in superhero movies. To me, it's much better than most of the superhero movies nowadays. I know I'll probably get a lot of shit for that too. But like I said, the ideas in this film I think are far less ridiculous than people make it out be than it was a big deal back then. To me, yeah. And especially this came out in the summer of '86. There was a packed summer because in '86 you had David Cronenberg's The Fly remake, Big Trouble in Little China, but the film that came out that was dominated the summer, that was Aliens. So since how popular Aliens was back during the summer was, this film did not stand a chance because everyone was watching Aliens, which rightfully so because I love Aliens. Consider one of the great people say it's like the greatest sequel of all time. But so don't worry, don't get me wrong, I love Aliens. I do. It's a fantastic sequel. It is like basically one of the best sequels ever made. But that's what people are seeing because Big Trouble in Little China did not do well because even though it came out like before Aliens though, but it didn't do well either. But Big Trouble in Little China, The Fly, Aliens, Howard the Duck in the same summer. And also this film opened on the same weekend as Friday the 13th, part 6, Jason Lives. So, so yeah, this came out the same weekend as part 6 of Friday the 13th. But Aliens was number 1 that weekend, while Part 6 was number 2. This debuted at number 3. So. But regardless, though, to me, Howard the Duck I think is very underrated, and I am one of the few people that will defend the movie still. 40 years later, the 40th anniversary of the film. To me, 40 years later, to me, I think it's underrated though, but not loved by everybody. People still say it's a horrible movie, which I could see from one end. Yes, but to me, I'm one of the few people that defends the film. I still like the movie. Probably get a lot of shit for saying so, though. But hey, I reviewed this film years ago, though. I'm probably people still say the same thing when I reviewed it. It's like, oh my god, you defend this film. How dare you? I'm not wrong for my opinion. So I think it's a fitting time now when I re-review this film. Yeah, for its 40th anniversary. Which will probably do for the other films that came out in 1986. Yeah, because like I said, 40 years later for this film, for Aliens and Big Trouble in Little China, The Fly. That was a good summer. All those films in the same summer together, man. So, but that's my 40th anniversary review of Howard the Duck. To me, I'll still defend it. To me, I think it's underrated. So yeah, so thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more. I didn't want to make this over an hour long review. Look at that cheese. But you know what? For a film like this, to me, it deserves it. You know, I did an over hour review for the Super Mario Brothers movie, so why not for this film? You know, if it's a film that I really do enjoy, to me, it deserves more attention and respect. For me it deserves, in my opinion, though, right? So thanks for watching this long ass review. You know, believe me, I didn't want to make it this long though, but what can you do? Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more. We'll see you next time. Later.